Hello, my name is Tim Bradrick, and this is my code demonstration for my capstone project, Milestone 9. Let's see here. There was lots of things that I have added. I did not complete all of the milestones, but there is a lot of content that I have added. Um, some leftovers from the previous milestone, random placements of the acorns in the neighborhood area. If we take a look over here in Unity, we have random acorns and an object here, and underneath that are a bunch of spawn points. I think I have 91 different spawn points. If you take a look where the arrows are, those are the different locations for the spawn points. What I did is just scattered them all over the place in the neighborhood section. And in the code, basically what I'm doing is it's when the code just starts up, um, it just goes through each spawn point basically from 0 to 90, so 91 different ones, and it generates a random number. And if that random number is less than a chosen value here, right there, 33%. So it's less than that 33%. It puts a acorn in the location, and that acorn is a prefab that I have over here, and the small prize acorn, and it will generate a random amount between 5 and 10. Starting at 5 is the minimum. And then when the character comes up and just walking around, and it can find about a third of those 91 different acorns in random locations. And I just concentrated some in the areas where the trees are mostly. But there's other spots. And there's some that I have automatically placed. For example, in the area inside of the rose bushes, there's a set number of 3 plus a donut. And there's a couple more places. So that's the random placements. Push an apple. Over here we have a new object for the apple tree, and I just put an apple symbol down at the bottom. And that's a very simple script that I attached to the apple tree. We select that, and there's the apple tree object. So it's just basically one of the trees, and I just added some additional functionality. There's a start location in the branches. There's a destination that I allocated there, and the apple's sitting on there, and then the code itself is in this script, drop an apple. And that's pretty straightforward. Right there, it just takes that start location and ending location, and when the player runs into the tree, the base of the tree, the trunk, or the stump, I should say, and there's less than 5 of them have been generated, it generates a new apple. And again, the apple is another prefab, and it just drops that and allows the player to push it around. So, and the goal here is for the player to push it in the center of the rose bushes and to collect those items in the middle of the rose bush area. Okay, next item, the birds. Finished creating the blackbirds, and I just generated them in a bunch of different locations, and they have sound effects. That's why there's that speaker icon, and they're in just different locations. There's another one here. He's hidden by the trees. There's another one over here. You can see his head a little bit. So just different locations around. And what I did is applied some a little bit more complicated animations and so forth. Let's see here. There's the object there, and the different objects attached, components. There's some animations on and colliders, a rigid body. The squirrel can come up and push them, and then the sound effects and so forth, and then the script itself. Let's see here. Zoom back out. Let's take a look at the animator. This is the animator for the blackbird. Basically, he just stands there, and then every once in a while he'll begin pecking at the ground, and then if the character comes close, he'll start flapping, and then after any of those, he'll walk around on occasion. And then the different animations are, if I select him right there, and there we go, and we just have different animations that we have created for him. The code, let's see here. First off, we just start out finding the basic components that I'm using in there, and then I start a coroutine, delayed a few seconds, where he will start walking around. So if we come down here, wait a few seconds to move, it'll wait a random number between 6 and 10 seconds, and then it will, let's see here, have him start moving, and then this refers back up to the update, and if he is instructed to start moving, the animator is set to wander, and he just walks around. And then after he's begun walking around, he's turned in the correct direction with this code here, another coroutine is started to stop him. And then this comes down here, and again, selects a random number of seconds to stop him. And then he just continues on in that pattern, hanging around, pecking the ground, or walking around. And then up here, we see if, here we go, we have two different collisions that he could, each blackbird could make. If the collision is with the player, actually the warning is down here. So the warning is if he gets too close. Then a warning is that he starts flapping his wings and he lets out a sound. And then the warning flag is turned on. Now, if the player comes by again and the warning has already been given, the blackbird will cause damage to the player. And then if the damage has been 2, the blackbird will fly away. And then this is the code where he will fly away. There's just a spot off of the scene 1,000 units away that he'll fly to, and his physics is turned off here, and he's sent above all of the other objects, so you can see him flying away. Now, if he runs into a tree, he will drop an acorn, and this is just a flag here that records whether he's dropped one already or not. And if he has not yet dropped one, the acorn object is instantiated a unit away from him, and then it's flagged as true. So there's some a little bit more complicated behavior from the blackbird. Okay. Next item, the settings. Let's see here. The settings are the position of the jump button and the move pad. And I had worked on that earlier, hadn't gotten the jump button working correctly, but I finally did. And in the process of getting it working correctly, just sort of made the observation that how to select the different positions seemed to be a little bit complicated, so I went ahead and simplified it. The way I did that was to have basically the move pad be the primary control, because it appears in both the neighborhood and the adventure area. So that will dictate the leftover possibilities to the jump button. So just tapping the move pad button moves it from the left to the center to the right and then back to the left, and it just goes in that rotation. And then down here, the jump button needs to decide where it goes from the leftover spaces that are available in the same order, and it just goes through the conditions here. And what I have assigned here are the numbers, -1, +1, and 0, and that is a offset factor chosen. Basically, the center of the screen is below the orange I button, and then there's an offset factor from that point on the x-axis, and on the y-axis it's always down at the bottom. So if it's -1, it sends it to the left. If it's 0, it keeps it below the orange button, and if it's a +1, it sends it to the right. Okay, and pinch to zoom. Let's see here. Had a little bit of an issue, had to sort out. Let's see here. Start with the basics. The camera in each of the scenes can be set to basically what's called an orthographic size, and in the home in the store that doesn't need to be adjusted, but in the neighborhood and in the adventure I'm giving the option for the player to choose, and I'm giving more choice or a wider range of choice in the neighborhood. One of the things I'm concerned with the playability of in the adventure area is that there's a narrow band, and if the zoom level is expanded too big, the view will go off of that narrow band. And in the neighborhood area, there's a much wider area that you can look up, down, left, right, beyond the view area of the camera. So basically right here we have the camera. This defines the view screen. And I had to set some objects, or set some scripts to move the objects with the changes in the view area. And so we have the donut timer, the I button, the move pad, and in the adventure area, the jump button. So, and those are some scripts that takes the aspect ratio of the screen and the orthographic size, which is this right here. You'll notice that this will move as it changes, and the default, I'm just assuming it 5.75. Let's see if we can get close to that. There we go. So that's the default, and then you can zoom in and out beyond that. Now, one of the issues that I had found, the touch to zoom requires multi-touch input, and only when there are exactly 2 touches on the screen. Talk about the basics of what it does. Is it takes the 2 touches and compares the positions of those 2 touches. If the position between those 2 touches is moving closer, let's see here. So it takes the difference between the touches, and if they're getting closer, it zooms in one direction, and if they're getting further apart, it zooms in the opposite direction. And then how much it changes is taken as the ortho zoom speed up here. So each frame, it can only change so much, and then the min and max values are the highest and lowest that I'll let the players take a look at. And then there's a different setting for the neighborhood as there is for the adventure. This is the neighborhood max zoom out value, max size, and this is the max for the adventure area. Now, one of the problems with the multi-touch is that the jump button also uses multi-touch, and one of the things that I was noticing is that as you would use the move pad and the jump button, it would zoom in and out